Can Newcastle United beat Brighton this Saturday? And the PIF are back in town. What does it mean for Eddie Howe? Find out right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Oh, brilliant from Share. And now Murphy can take on the shot. Fabian Share win!
All right, folks. How are you all doing? How are you all doing? Always an incredible privilege and opportunity to be doing this show with you guys live. Even more of a privilege and opportunity to be doing it and seeing already comments in the chats and everything else. I was almost like, as you guys know, I do the research, a lot of research going into the show, and literally right up into the show, I was doing the research on the player, and it's caused me a pause for thought. And I'm like, it's all still marinating in my mind. So it's a lot of exciting stuff I'm hoping to be talking about with you guys this evening. We will be going through, we'll be doing a match preview for the Brighton game that's going to come towards the end of the show. We're going to kick things off with looking at two articles released by the Iron newspaper and by The Athletic. I've sort of summarized both of them, but they kind of cover the PIF visit. One is more political, one is a little bit more kind of around data and how Eddie Howe might defend himself. So I added some context to it, but it just expands and it allows us to talk a little bit about Newcastle a little bit more comprehensively. And also, they lead on to a conversation about Newcastle looking for a specialist six in this transfer window. And we have covered obviously midfield areas in our kind of scouting profiles, and there's been a couple of players that we've looked at, but there's also a new one from Germany that has popped up. So let me know in the chat if you can guys guess who we're going to be talking about before we get to that before we get to that young man. I'll give you guys. I was going to say give you guys prizes. I don't have any prizes, but I'll give you the thumbs up if you get it right. So let me know. But as always a blessing to see folks in the chat. God bless you, Ches. Good to see you. Hi, Philip. Hi, Philip. Hope you're well, mate. I'm very well. So just to let you know, people say this every show, but it's happening. I am working on that WhatsApp group for ourselves. So if anybody wants to be part of it, do let us know. I'm looking forward to it, actually. I think it's going to be a good thing. Good to see my man James here as well. God bless you. Good to see James. I mate Phil, guess what? Prison food in St. James's Park. Luckily, there's very good restaurants around the stadium. I know. I remember hopefully we'll hopefully the PIF don't eat from there. NFC Nevs, God bless you, says I think it's a contract renewal as they are the current suppliers. Oh, I think I've caught something else. A different conversation here. Stankovic backups. So for Sancho, hopefully. You rate him, James? Let me know. I haven't got to see Stankovic too much. I feel like I've covered him though. I probably haven't. Let me know, guys. Have I covered Alexander Stankovic? I probably haven't. Maybe it's one of those ones I researched, but I didn't get to do on the show. I think it's one of those ones. But the player I'm looking for, if you're guessing the player, is the only clue I'm going to give is that he plays in Germany. He plays in Germany. Stankovic, I think, plays for Bruges, right? Ches says, if we're looking for a specialist six, then we might be changing formation because Eddie's previously said that we don't play with a six. Hold that thought, Ches. We're going to be not only we're going to be in the scout report, we're going to do a little bit of conversations about how a six plays essentially, and kind of try and think about what that means for Newcastle. But you're exactly on the right path. Doesn't mean the change in the formation. There was only one player actually. I don't know if you guys remember when I could talk about him because I'm not going to cover him today. But Chema Andreas, I think is Chema Andreas, the one that plays for Stuttgart. the register, the specialist six. And I think we were saying in that show that, hey, if we get this guy's a real specialist six. Like, he's not like a box to box six. Don't ask him to do that. Don't ask him to be an advanced midfielder because he's not going to do that. But a register as specialist six, yes. But if you're going to get him, that means there is going to be some sort of change in how we play essentially as well. So it's interesting now if we connect Chema, for instance, to this news from the Iron newspaper about a specialist six. There's some kind of connection there. Whether it's Chema or not, I don't know, but certainly it changes things. James says, but other news, I'm happy to see a lot more movement in sponsorships. Yeah, I saw, is it Sodexo? French food company or something like that? Incredible. So that is very, very positive. Right. So it's not Angela Stiller. It's not Angela Stiller. Is Angela Stiller a specialist six? I always get the feeling he's I don't know too much about him, but the people always talk about like his from an attacking midfield point of view. No, it's not Eric Martel. I'm glad I'm keeping you guys guessing. All right, so let's first begin with these articles because it's going to lead us off to other things. And I've got a roadmap for tonight's show, but I might be I might go from different places here and there. So let's see how it goes. Stick with me. Let me know if I go off track. Like I said, I was in two minds about where I was going to head to, but let me yeah, I got it in my mind. I know where I'm going. I know I'm going. Right, I hope you guys enjoyed the thumbnail. So any bright ideas? Brighton playing Brighton. Let me know what you guys think of that. All right, so two articles that were released today and possibly yesterday, but I think today. One being on the left from the Iron newspaper, again, our man Mark Douglas, where this is a little bit more of a strategic political side of things, relationships and everything else. And he mentions the specialist six, and he says, Newcastle prepared to build and this is the big quote, and this is from a quote that he got from a quote in this, and this is what I think has got some people online not too happy. But Newcastle prepare to build an Eddie Howe team with one major sale planned. Obviously, big picture of Anthony Gordon. Interesting again, a couple of things in that title already. Build an Eddie Howe team. To build an Eddie Howe team, you need Eddie Howe. So it looks like it's staying, folks. For me personally, there's so many more articles saying that Eddie Howe's staying than not, that I find it quite interesting that people are still questioning, asking for PIF to come out and make an official statement. I don't know how many more need to come out, but anyway. So it's Eddie Howe team with one major sale plan. Looks like Gordon's closer to that sale, but he does talk about Tonali and Livramento and others. And he does says, plus the key transfer markets the Magpies are targeting this summer. So there's some really interesting stuff in that because we'll get into it, but it's essentially talking about how Newcastle are going to be looking at all sorts of markets, including obviously abroad. They're going to stay away from really high, expensive English talent like Anthony Langas. If you guys remember from the previous show, Mark Douglas highlighted in big bold writing both Anthony Elanga and Wissa. Now we know why he highlighted Wissa, because it was seen more as a panic buy, and it was like a fifth or sixth choice striker that Newcastle got. Whereas Elanga was a premeditated, designed, strategic recruitment, but it was an expensive one, and it doesn't look like at the moment that it's working out. And so Newcastle want to be able to get players that, okay, if they don't work out, the financial penalties for that aren't as severe. So they're going to be looking abroad, but they're also going to be. It also talked about players that are out of contract, for instance, as well. So they're looking to move very, very flexibly. In that same article, they also talked about how Mark Douglas asked the question to his sources: how does Eddie Howe feel about the fact that he's going to be getting so many like potential talents and talents from abroad? And they're like, yeah, he's fine with it. Like, why do you think he's not? Type of thing. So Eddie Howe's ready for it. You know, all these raw talents from abroad and everything else. He's ready for it. So I didn't ever think there would be a problem with it, to be honest, in my view. And the last thing they said also, which was quite not last, but one of them they said is, I skipped my mind now. I'll get back to it. They did say something else interesting about the transfer stuff. I can't remember. I'll get back to it. Then you've got the article from The Athletic. Does Newcastle data give Howe a way to explain their downturn in form in PIF meeting? So this one's from Chris Woe. I can never pronounce his surname. Newcastle correspondent, again, very, very balanced as well. He kind of takes the approach in this article. It's a very, very detailed article. I'll cover it a little bit in summary, but it's he kind of takes a hypothetical scenario where Eddie Howe is sort of not justifying, but he's kind of giving the presentation to PIF to explain why the season has gone, how it has gone. And so in the article, Chris creates a situation. What would Eddie Howe say? What does the underlying data say? He does, and you don't just talk about data, about context. He adds some context to it, but obviously you guys know me. I added some more context to it as well. So we're going to go through that as well. Yeah, so the Athletics on the left, what they talked about: ceiling, shot volume, low quality chances. So no, the I newspaper. I'm trying to remember what I forgot about the I newspaper. It's gonna bug me. It's gonna bug me. I can't remember what it was, guys. Let me quickly go through it. Let me quickly go through the I newspaper and see what you guys are saying. I wasn't planning to because there's so much things we're going to go through, but it's bugging me. It is bugging me. So what did we have in the I newspaper? Share this tab instead. And by the way, I was hoping if we get time, I wanted to look at that Whisper video as well. But I probably don't have time. But Wilson released he had an interview. He gave a very interesting interview. So anxious time for Newcastle United. Recruitment is underway. Director of football overseeing things. In the insider speak, Paul Wilson. He's got lots of energy. Key targets markets revealed. So including free agents and players with little known or time-sensitive release clauses. So players with time-sensitive release clauses. Interesting. Up-and-coming talent from European markets, Premier League proven, and off-the-radar targets seen as having untapped potential. So Premier League proven is still there. How high up the list that is, we don't know. This might be the interesting part, actually. So let me just zoom in a little bit here. This is how many players come in a movable how many players come in is a movable feast, with some insiders bristling at talk of a complete overhaul. So they're like, why would there be a complete overhaul? What do you mean a complete overhaul? The general principle, well, considering that you guys have been saying for a little while now, we're gonna 8 players are gonna leave, we're gonna need to replace them. I don't know why they're acting all surprised now. The general principle given now, hold on, I forgot to charge my laptop, so now it's charging. Thank you. Would have gone off midway to the show. So what do they say? Okay, so the general principle given new squad cost ratio rules is that Newcastle will need to operate to a 1 in and 1 out policy. Literally every club says this. So sales will be required not just to free up the squad cost space, but also to provide financial wiggle room for other players, which is true. But considering that Trippier's going, Fabian Shaw's going in terms of end of contracts, Kraft is going, there's somebody else going, Matt Target's going, Pope is going, probably, right? End of contract. So you've already got 5 players there just off the cuff like that. That's pretty close to an overhaul, no matter what they say. Who's it and who's coming out? And again, they reiterate in this article that they keep on saying that is why the Magpies will not be afraid to listen to offers for young Wissa. They've again put that out there, despite what Mr. Wissa said in his interview, which is he's looking forward to next season. All the noise coming out of Newcastle and that expensive haul that they're having this meeting at is, yeah, we're looking forward to selling you. So watch this space. I take it. Though there is possibility, I would say, I wouldn't be surprised. There was a little bit of a rumor talking about how Newcastle could potentially loan Voldemar to Bayern Munich, like a loan with an obligation to buy. That is a possibility. In that case, I see Worcester staying and Newcastle buying players around that. So while there is some interest, the general feeling is that the value has dropped to around 15 to 20 million pounds. We talked about that. Yeah, so obviously Kieran Trippier's going. And it's the part where it says, intriguingly, the Iron newspaper understands that another of Newcastle priorities is finding a specialist sixth, a move that suggests they may be preparing for a stylistic evolution this summer. Exactly what my man Ches was saying as well. And they kind of say, well, they do say, Mark says, they did previously look at Anderson. Anderson, I don't think we're going to look at him this time. Ooh, maybe we'll go for back for Elliot Anderson. I think Elliot Anderson's going to City. So that's not going to happen. Now, interestingly, I think maybe this is the other part that I did miss out on. Because I've been saying we're not going to get this guy. We're definitely not going for this guy, but you never know. And it says this is my goalkeeper. So Newcastle retain interest in James Trafford, which surprised me a lot because I really kind of accepted in my mind that we're not going for him based on a lot of the stuff coming out. And I know when they say in interviews we're not looking at this certain person, but I just had the feeling that we're not. And wages, and we kind of did the thing on his wages before. They're really, really high. But if you want a quality keeper, you might have to bite the bullet. Newcastle retained an interest in James Trafford, the article goes on, who is keen to find regular first-team football away from the Etihad this summer. But 21-year-old Lens goalkeeper Robin Rizza, viewed as future France number 1, is also high on the list, as first revealed by the iPaper. And Brighton's Barton Rugen is also another option. And it talks about Anthony Gordon being in demand for a valuation close to 80 million, whilst Bayern Munich wanting for 55 million. I don't know if that number sounds familiar to you guys, but that's the number they wanted Voldemar for, in and around that thing. For me, this Bayern Munich stuff, they just can't get over Voldemar, which surprises me. Like we haven't, this, that you're a big, huge club, you're fighting for. If you just had one of the greatest Champions League games ever, and you're doing this stuff. But this is just my own internal war with their sporting director. You're literally trying to pay the same money that we were looking to pay for Voldemar for Gordon. We bought Gordon for like 45 million pounds 4 years ago when he had 5 goals in the Premier League. He's now had 2 seasons where he's had 20 GA plus. He's played in the Champions League twice. He's a full England international. He's got 26 GA against top 6 sides during his whole period in the Premier League. And you're saying, Bayern Munich, that his value has only increased by 10 million? Wow. Is all I got to say. A direct quote says the club can't be afraid of selling players. One senior source says it's something we've got to get away from. This will be part of the future. Sounds like Wilson to me would say that. So it's interesting. And a couple other things. Sandro's future will depend on interest, in big, bold writing, interest. But so Sandro Tonali's future will depend on interest. So a lot of clubs are fishing, but nobody's quite taken the debate at the moment. But this is very, very, very interesting. Or interesting. But Captain Bruno Gomes, a frustrated bystander during recent troubles, obviously Newcastle troubles, is expected to be central to the rebuild. So Mr. Bruno is going to go back in my, my likelihood of being sold or not. Is going to go back into the. Well, he's high at the moment, so I might have to put him in the medium. But he looks like he's expected to be central to the rebuild. Very, very interesting. And very good news for us. Now, elephant in the room. Eddie Howe's job status. There is a perception that the Newcastle manager would prefer safer options whose CV includes. Oh, this is the Premier League stuff. Let's skip that, but it's worth pointing out. So this is what they said. What did they say? But it is worth pointing out that all of the player identification has been done for a Howe team, albeit one that will look different to this year's tired and stale side. What did they say? Again, they're repeating there is no free pass for Howe, and his paymasters want to see him brimming with ideas and solutions, but it is different. It is difficult to discern any real desire for change in terms of manager. The certainty around it, this is in quote, the certainty around his future is his contract, one insider says, which basically says he's here for the duration of the contract. So let me know what you guys think about that. I didn't even intend to go into this article that long. I wanted to summarize it a little bit more, but we are where we are. I think it's interesting. So I wanted to kind of note the kind of, let's say, political, the Newcastle political side of things, strategic stuff of things. When we're looking at the transfer and how we approach the recruitment, summer recruitment, and everything else, it's important for us to know when we're saying why did we kind of approach it in the way that we approached it. It's important to kind of read and see these type of relationships and what's going on. Why have we gone for a certain type of player? Is because we're building for a Howe team and not for any other person's team, essentially. So let me know what you guys think about that before we go into the athletic one. I will summarize that one because it's quite long, but I will show you some of the data and stuff that they're going through. I'm going to summarize that, add some context to it, and get you guys' views on it. I really didn't mean to go into that article that long, but we are. And like I said, we are. I'm going to just deal with it. Good to see. James says, Phil, I've been saying this for years, looking at European targets, looking at South American targets. Looks like we're buying a lot of players from young players from South America as well. Looking at South Africa targets, we should be looking in the next direction instead of the Premier League. It looks like we are. It looks like we are for sure. My man Wobojo, good to see you, sir. God bless you. Exhilarating night of football. No, I'm joking. It was a tight game. It was a different type of game. I enjoyed it. BT, I haven't seen you for a while. I hope you are well. God bless you. Good to see you. Good evening, Philip, and all those in the chat. Really good to see you, BT. I hope everything is well with you and your family. Good evening, says Wobojog. Wobojog, how would you feel if Unai Emery wins Europa and wins another European title? He says he's gunning for third place in the Premier League. I personally think he wants to make a statement that he's not far behind Arsenal, which is what I think. Yes, what's the interview? Part 1 of 2. I wish, if I get time, which I'd be surprised if I do at the end of the show, I would like to play some of it. While they're changing. Adrian says they might well change Eddie while they're changing everything else. Everyone's saying that. But Adrian, I'm not getting it from these articles. And I think the concept of that, and I kind of challenged Coach Meron a little bit on it, because he had the same idea, because he was saying, well, whilst you're making a player overhaul, you might as well include the manager in it, So that's another. But he said it in terms of like, and therefore those people that want Eddie Howe to stay should see the reason for that. And we're like, me as a person who wants Eddie Howe to stay, it makes no sense just to say, because we're having the player overhaul, therefore we should have a manager overhaul. But no, like, I think the managers should stay. It's like saying, we're moving all your stuff out your house, and whilst we're moving all your stuff out your house, let's also remove your big brand new TV that you've got nothing that you think there's nothing wrong with it. So I don't want to move it though. You say, we're moving everything else. No, keep the TV, but you can move all this other stuff that I don't need. That's what essentially is. So if that makes sense, I don't know if that was the greatest metaphor, but I don't see it. Like, I think you just want to move how. I don't think there's an appetite for it. I'll wait for the tea for too long. It's getting warm. Christopher Hoskins says, by selling Gordon, you can bring in 3 players, Kike Rissa, a new right back, and a top youth left wing for 80 million. Possibly. I can't remember from the top of my head what all their wages are. Possibly. It will definitely make room for sure. Definitely for 2. Raymond says, hi, Toon. Philip, how are you? Saudi sell Newcastle United now, and the man of state. Oh, jeez. Raymond. I can see you. You're back on it. Yes, for me, now from Ray. I hear you, Raymond, man. I don't think it's happening, though. Philip, why? Sorry, Christopher says, Philip, why? Oh, I'm looking at the time. Why has Tyndall in the managed meeting today? Eddie Howe brings him into all of his important even interviews and everything else. So it's not unusual for me to see that. I'm not actually surprised. Raymond says, hi, Toon. How are you? Anderson should sign for Newcastle now. Yeah, I don't think he will, though, Ray. I think he's going to City. Warburg Jokes Phil, don't see Donnarumma staying at City. He's the equivalent of Gyökeres at Arsenal. Nah, no way. Not as back, obviously, but doesn't suit the system at all. It's the system that I think Guardiola had enough of ball-playing goalkeepers, and he wanted goalkeepers that actually make match-winning saves. So I hope he keeps them, because obviously I want Trafford to come. It's good to complete. What have I missed here? Chair says, best decision. I knew Bruno would be the one to rebuild. Rebuild would be central to. He's a proper leader and the one who believes passionately in the project. Absolutely. I would say now, I think he's the best foreign buyer we've ever had. James says, we can send it to your favorite team. I'm sure that's not my conversation. Sorry, guys. Christopher says, question, Philip. Next season isn't a Howe team. It's a squad to compete youth over Prem proven, which will stretch Howe to see if he can truly develop stars. I don't know what you mean. It's not a Howe team just because it's a youth team. Like, he doesn't manage all players. And when you say it will stretch Howe because we see how he truly developed play, I don't know how many players Eddie Howe has to develop to prove that he's an exceptional developer of players. Does he have to? How many times does he develop Miley, Hall, Tino, Gordon? When he came, everybody was thinking, why did we buy Gordon? Now everybody knows. How many careers he turned around? Joe Linton, Jacob Murphy for the period of time that he was here. I just don't understand, like, what you mean by that, Chris. Like, are we saying that he can't develop players? I think he's one of the best at developing players, hence why PIF really are keen for him to stay so he can develop these players, in my opinion. And finally, Wobblejuk says, Phil Emery can try to make all the statements he wants. Other managers do too. This Arsenal thing with Emery is funny to me, but I hear what you're saying. Right, now, like I said, The Athletic is a little bit different from the Iron newspaper. Like I said, it takes the tone of, and it tries to put itself into Eddie Howe's shoes, and it talks about how, well, like I said, what would Eddie do to kind of, how would Eddie essentially, I say, defend himself, kind of, or explain the season essentially, which I think is defending himself, why it's gone the way it has. And they suggested all sorts of data that he would show them. And what if you guys remember Suds, the IT, not the IT guy, the stats guy, and how he will provide certain data as well. I'm going to breeze through it because I'm going to. I've actually got a summary for it as well, but this is how it looks. Let me get back on it. And they give a highlight here of Newcastle, but they talk about what's the underlying stats. They go through the top of the season. They use Kev Lawson's stats as well. If you guys know Kev, incredible data guy as well. They kind of look at underlying numbers for Newcastle in terms of their XG. So that's what we're going to talk about. So he kind of talks about comparison metrics in terms of XG difference, including XG difference. So that being XG they've scored, XG in terms of goals created versus XG, XA, goals they've conceded via, or like should have conceded via their XG. And Newcastle normally, he believes that Newcastle should be ninth if you put it all together, but that is in overall. But like through different phases of the season so far, Newcastle are floating in different areas, and obviously whether it's sixth, maybe all the way down to 10th, and those are for different reasons. And so Mark does try to give different context to it, where he talks about I can't remember if he talks about the fixture list and everything else, but they give essentially a lot of numbers in terms of where and how Newcastle fluctuated in terms of results. And obviously at the moment it's in a downwards spiral. I'm going to go into it a little bit more in depth. And if it goes, like I said, Newcastle expected XG over time, they go over years as well. We're going to for a very, very kind of 10-game rolling average of non-penalty goals scored above or below XG since. So I'm going to kind of break it down a little bit more in a moment. So I'm not going to go too much in depth, but it kind of takes the stance of, and it kind of says, but the only, so let me see, I'll read the last two. How can you use data to cite something so it goes, how can you use data to cite some misfortune and present an alternative reality this season where a proficient finisher and a better performing defensive unit combine to deliver European qualification once more? So that's the context he gives. Chris does. I think it's a little bit deeper than that, but that only extends so far. If Chris, you only use that as your context, right? Because there's more context, like the beginning of the season in terms of recruitment, but then going into having a smaller squad, having an aging squad, fixture pile up, injuries, which we're going to talk about. Because what I've done is kind of broken it down and kind of using a bit of AI, asked in terms of the various parts of the season, who was available, who was not, who was injured, who was not, and also asked how many games we played in those different periods as well. I'll show you guys in a moment what I mean. Right, so it goes on to say, but that only extends so far. Ultimately, the longer the season has gone on, the worse Newcastle underlying numbers have become. This is true. And I, for one, especially after the international break, really hoped and expected that we would improve our performance and our results. Losses to Everton, losses to Sunderland after going a goal up, losses to Brentford after going a goal up, losses to there was somebody else went up a goal up again and we lost to them as well. Bournemouth, crazy. And so how we'll need to draw upon alternative evidence and convincing arguments elsewhere to really make a persuasive case that he remains the best head coach to take the team forwards. So I'm sure some of you guys, let me know what you guys think of that. But I'm going to break it down a little bit more, add a little bit more context. As always, very, very, very keen to hear what you guys think. It was very interesting breaking down the season actually and talking about it. James says the article you were looking at was showing two Premier League goalkeepers when I was thinking we were looking away from Premier League, but the two all go with Bart. But out of the two, you'd go Bart. Yeah, Bart's good, very good. I don't think we're going to get him. I think he's going to go Bayern Munich, and I don't hold them being Premier League goalkeepers against them. I think it's more to do with their wages, right? That's why out of all those out of between Trafford and Bart Verbruggen, Trafford's like on 100k plus already. So that's the problem there. But a lot of the groundwork of Trafford has already been done. So maybe that's why they're looking at him. And if Pope goes, he's on 70k. I think Roddy's going to go. He's on 15k. Does Gillespie stay as well? He might go. Ramsdale's leaving. Ramsdale's on 120k. So we've got some space there. But I hear what you're saying. Adrian says Eddie's development of players is totally overhyped. Is it? I don't think so. Like, where do you think the hype is? How highly do you think he's rated? But where do you think he really is? Like, what's the reason for that? I'd be keen to know. Shares says one bad season and suddenly Eddie can't develop players and all he recruits ever were failures. Yeah, exactly. Um, Wobo Jog says, LOL, I didn't have an issue with him personally or his character, just his uninspiring approach to games. But when for some reason became a stick to beat Arteta with, who is in my opinion a better manager. I wasn't even talking about Arteta. Jog. I wasn't even talking about Arteta. I was just talking about like him trying to make a statement. Him being Unai Emery trying to prove to Arsenal. I took it as reading between the lines. Hey, I am that guy. I wasn't even talking about Arteta. Don't worry. Like, you know what I mean? We're not gonna. There's no. We're not gonna say anything bad about Arteta or Bojok. Don't worry. Not on this channel. Right. So, like I said, I wanted to break it down like this. Right. So this is based on, and you can see I didn't have time because I didn't get a nice picture, but the Chris Wall article covered very underlying stats using XG, so goals created for, and XA, goals created against, and it did it over time. So it talked about, so that one, my name again is cutting it out. So over the periods over the season. So it starts with, let me make sure I get the period right. It goes from August to October. Then it goes from from November to January. Then from February to April, right? And it talks about the biggest XG, XA difference, basically saying, as you know, if Newcastle's goal creation XG continues to outperform the XA, that's really, really, really good underlying stats, right? Now that might not be reflected in the actual results, i.e., goals and wins, which is what's important. But what they're saying, obviously, that's why they call it underlying stats, to say, but it does show the team is performing, it's just not coming out in the results. Now, in the what they're basically saying is that in the from the August October period was a strong start, really good underlying stats. From the November January period, though, you begin to see a slow decline in that, right? Going in the other direction. February to April was the worst phase, where that is basically the goal creating, the GA is basically almost sinking below, and some stats sinking below the goals conceded stat. So that's not good. That's going into relegation form, which we're not too far from at the moment as well. And that's where we are currently. Now, Mr. Chris Wall does give limited context in my opinion, where he said it at the end. Well, if Howe's excuse is, if only you got me a striker and a good defensive unit, this wouldn't be happening. But from Chris's opinion is, well, that's not going to wash if you don't have a little bit more than that. Well, I think there is more than that, and I'm a bit, if there is more context to that. We just mentioned it on the show, obviously, in terms of the recruitment of which Chris is kind of thrown it away like it's not that big a deal. It is a big deal when we've gone from when we've basically chosen our fifth and sixth strikers. I keep on forgetting we actually went for Larson as well, didn't get Larson. And there's other context that I've added to that. And the context that I ever wanted to add to the season was injuries and games played within those periods. So essentially, from the beginning, let me make sure what dates. I'll make sure I got my dates right. And this is what I mean by adding context. So from August to October, right? Let me add to that. Let me make sure I show you guys the screen. Here we go. Is it the right one? Should be. So I wanted to talk about how many games played and players available or unavailable, right? So from August to October, baseline, but not fully clean. That's when Newcastle had a strong start, good underlying stats, right? So strong structure, meaning low XG conceded and fairly high XG, XG going forward. So efficient attack, so high quality chances have been produced, and a lot of goals have been prevented, or there was a limited chance of opposition creating goals against Newcastle, or that didn't stop them from scoring. In that period of time, from August to October, Newcastle played 14 games, right? So August, September, October, 3-month period, 12 weeks. So in 12 weeks, Newcastle played 14 games-ish, right? So stable. So it's mostly one game per week in that game. Even in that period of time, confirmed absences for Newcastle. Johan Wissa, right from the jump, right? And if you remember, and I wish Chris would have added this, Johan Wissa, who's currently our number 9, was supposed to lead Newcastle through the season. And Mr. Voldemar was meant to get a slow integration into the team, and should be, and where to the point where at this point he would have been up and running. But it ended up being Mr. Voldemar who started, who did have a strong start, but it wasn't meant to be he's obviously he's now going for a downward period as you'd expect. But it's meant to be Johan Wissa who started. We also had our 2 starting fullbacks out, Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento, who had a knee issue in September. So our fullbacks, as we know, to how we play, is very, very important. We had Dan Burn at left back, if you guys remember, because Lewis Hall was out. And then we had Kieran Trippier at right back as well. And we later know that Kieran Trippier also got injured. So we had Kieran Trippier and Livramento out and Kraft out, and Miley was forced to go right back. Then we had Burn getting injured at left back. And then I forgot who had to cover Burn now to this point as well, which was insane. Anyway, so Johan Wissa, from between August to October, Johan Wissa, Lewis Hall out, Tino Livramento out, and Jacob Ramsey too was out. So Jacob Ramsey's integration also took a little bit later. It was at that point, and beyond that, people were saying waste of 45 million, which ended up being not true. So it's clear that there were real absences, but mostly, if you're kind of looking back at it, it's mostly rotational. But the big ones were the fullbacks, our starting fullbacks, that really, really hurt us, and Johan Wissa. We still had a decent-ish start, especially good underlying numbers despite that in that period. Now, moving forward from November to the January period, right? That 3-month period. That's when the disruption begins for Newcastle United. In that 3-month period, and so this is what I mean by disruption. So, and this is according to the stats that that we've summarized from Eddie Kev and from the Athletic. So the press becomes easy to bypass. Hence why I don't know if you guys saw the stats that Newcastle had like the most through balls conceded. So the press becomes easy to bypass. Chance quality drops. XG conceded starts to rise, and the midfield protection weakens. In that period, Newcastle have gone from 14 games to 24 games in that 3-month period. 24 games in that 3-month period. So that's 12 weeks. So literally 12 games, mainly 2 games per week. 2 games per week, right? In that period, we had Kieran Trippier out, as we talked about, because he got crocked, and that's when Miley had to go right back. Sven Botman pulled his hamstring. So that added to the defensive fragility, and that's what's added to, obviously, the XG against conceded going up. And Nick Pope also got himself injured. So that's the spine of the team and the defensive organisation that hurt Newcastle, combined with the fixture congestion and less training and cohesion. Because now, obviously, we're playing more games, we've got less time to train together and to organise stuff, and that's added to, obviously, the fact that to the results that we're seeing in that period of time. Again, something that Chris and the Athletic didn't mention. So the combined effect of all these things is that there's a real tipping point, there's defensive structure destabilization, and the pressing system starts to break. And that's just the beginning of things. Then we head into the period of real woes. The period between February to April. February to April. In that period of which we're just about to get out of, I think, is it May tomorrow? I can't remember. Newcastle have conceded the highest XG in that period, and also attack volume over quality. So yes, there's a lot of volume of what we're doing, but there's a real lack of quality in terms of what we're producing in front of goal. So as you guys know, we typically have like 20 plus crosses per game, but we have very little XG for that. You guys know my stance. I think it's been the lack of movement from our forwards, in particularly Voltemada. Right, so volume over quality. Team becomes structurally open, right? Even though there's a slightly reduced fixture congestion, but only slightly, right? But the fatigue from the previous 3 months where we had so many games, it carries over into this one. And in this period, we've got Fabian Shaw out. He's been out for already a while now. He's been out for 21 games, right? Tino Livramento out. He's been out for 17 games, by the way, guys. Emil Kraft, fine. Bruno Gomes, hamstring spell, he's been out. And Lewis Miley, who's been out for a period of time. So what do we have? We have our backline, big figures in our backline now. Tino, Trippier, Botman. Midfield, Lewis Miley and Bruno Gomes. And boy, did they make a difference against Arsenal, right? Those guys were out. No continuity in our system. So literally our whole spine is out, continues to be out in terms of the team. And that's been our worst statistical phase. Defensive transition collapses, central protection disappears, and attack becomes inefficient, right? That's the context that I would add to that. How can the team be able to function as good as it should do if all those players, all those areas are out as well? What I wanted to add to that, when I added context to it, is it also led to the errors. Errors that led to goals. If you guys can see, Newcastle are number 2 from 42, number 2 with in terms of errors that led to goals, right? So Newcastle have missed, have considered 20 goals so errors that led to goals. 20 goals from 20 goals that were conceded from that, which is incredible. The league average is 13. Newcastle have 20, right? So why is that? When you don't have a midfield, when you lack your defensive line, and you have a lack of quality up front, teams are able to attack you more and more and more, which leads to more and more transitions, which then leads to a lot more errors against your team. Now, we know that some of those errors are from Mr. Pope, quite a lot of them, right? And that's a factor in itself. But it is no surprise that when the team structure falters because of injuries, because of the system breaking down, more and more volume of chance to be considered against you, as a result of that, Newcastle concede a lot more chances, a lot more personal errors that lead to goal. So, in conclusion, I'm going to see what you guys think of all of this and add substance to it. Performance has declined of injuries and the fixture congestion, particularly from the November to January period onwards. Loss of defensive stability, so the press breaks down earlier, leads to more transitions faced, higher XG conceded as a result of that. Newcastle ranks second for errors leading to goals. This is a symptom of the system stress. And obviously the midfield number 6, no Bruno, no Miley, looks exposed because issue is structural and not position. So, yes, Newcastle need number 6, and we're going to look at number 6 in a moment, but there is a wider problem, and obviously having a small squad, lower quality of player, adds to the injuries, adds to the fixture congestions, system breakdown, and this explains a lot of the reasons why Newcastle's underlying numbers, which started off really, really well, have now gone in a downward trajectory, which has also obviously impacted our results as well. So that would be the context that I would have added. And I think that's led to the season itself. As Adam Cleary has said, are there managers, that could have done better in this situation? The answer is yes, there are. But there are not a lot of managers that could have done better in that situation. And how much better is also questionable. I think, and I said it before, I said it 8 to 9 points, but now because of the recent losses, it's now between like 9 and 12 points that I think Eddie Howe could have done better with the team. So I think that's the part that's going to be more difficult for him to explain, in my point of view. But this is the context. So it's not as simple as what Chris has said. Well, Chris Vore has said, which is, well, just saying because he didn't get to buy a striker and a better defensive unit isn't enough. Yeah, it's not enough. Because if you just put it in that narrow context and you use your numbers, it's not enough. But if you add just that little bit of context that I've got to add to it, sitting at home on my laptop, not having the data team that Newcastle have, if I can add that context, I'm sure Eddie Howe and everybody else, and to be honest, I'm pretty sure that PIF would already be aware of this, in my personal opinion. I think for me, there's a lot of play into the gallery in terms of, we're going to make sure Eddie Howe doesn't have a free pass, and he's not going to have any control over transfers, and he never had any control over transfers. That's what they had. That's why they're sporting directors. But anyway, so yeah, in conclusion, that's the context. That's the situation for Newcastle's season, and why it's gone the way it's gone. It doesn't leave Eddie Howe blameless, for sure. No, I think he could have done more tactically to adjust. But that's where we are. That's my view on it. Let me know what you guys are saying. I'm just going through the comments. says, good to see Adnan. Haven't seen you for a while, man. God bless you. Robo Jug says, Phil, we can say anything. I cast Arteta yesterday when lineup came out. I said he deserves a spot at the bottom of Dante's Inferno for that line, in my opinion. But surprisingly, it kind of worked out. Nah, I know what you mean. It kind of worked out. Emphasis on the kind of. Let me guys see what you guys are saying. Good to see United TV. God bless you guys. Says Evening Philip, what's the news regarding Tonali's actual price? How do you mean? I think I just read. What did I just read from it? Did I read somebody else? I think that was Gordon's price. Last I heard, I think we're looking for around 80 million. United TV says also, what would you say are his strengths and weaknesses? Strengths, obviously, in terms of his ability to cover ground, good shooting, physicality, very, very good. He's the engine room as well. Weaknesses, he can cover ground, but the space in behind is the problem that he leaves, and the gaps that he leaves as a result of that. So he needs a little bit more. He needs to fix up on that. His passing is not the greatest. Even short passing at times, it gets the weight passes wrong. Not the greatest in tight spaces. I wouldn't use him as your number 6, for instance, to try and. You can use him as a number 6, but if you're saying, I want to use this as a number 6 to break the press, and I'm going to talk about number 6s in a moment, to break the press or, back to goal, I personally wouldn't recommend it. But if you, for instance, partnerships is what's important, but if you partner Tonali with a Kobe Mainu, who's good at all those things, except for not as good as the covering ground part, he can do it, but not as good as Tonali, for instance, and you need legs around him, that would be a good partnership. It's up to you guys if you want to pay 80 million for him, essentially. But yeah, I hope that helps. Let me know. Looks like we don't make many errors. You don't, but you've had, speaking of Man United, you've played like 42 games this season. You got knocked out in the first round of every cup competition. So you had like 21 days break at one point. So you've been good. You're asking me, Ian, if you were in the Matt Van Hall meeting and you had one question, which question would you ask and to who? That's a great question. That's a very, very quite good question, Ian. I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to star that one. Remind me, Ian, if I don't say it, I'm thinking about it. Adnan says, how ran the team based on English players and his favourites who were rubbish players like Longstaff? Not true. This has caused lack of trust and players like Gordon to treat Howe like a fool, which is true. No, it's not true. I think you want it to be true, but it's not true. Why would there be a lack of trust? Gordon plays like 3,000 plus minutes every time. Gordon scored like 10, 11 goals in the Champions League, got another 20 GA season. He's having a great time, and he's going to the World Cup. Longstaff isn't as bad as people make him out to me. That comment I made about Tonali leaving space in behind, guess who's really good at not doing that and having tactical discipline? Sean Longstaff. It's why Sean Longstaff played ahead of Tonali so often, and people couldn't understand why. But that was the reason. That was the big reason. But I disagree, basically. I disagree with you, Adnan. Hi, good to see you, Nathan. God bless you. James says the only thing that I'd say the PIF need to make clear boundary to anyhow if they want to keep him, suggesting that Ian must change his formation to get better results because of the moment Snell. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yes, I was quite proud of it myself. Okay, I missed that one. Yeah, so I wanted to add context to that situation, guys. In terms of the season itself, good to obviously everyone's got opposing views or areas they agree on. But that's the season going forward. And actually, I'm going to go to that question, Ian. I think that's where it heads into it. I would ask this to PIF and I want to say to Eddie and the recruitment staff, but I think they should know this. And this is it. This is okay. Are we going to, at the end of this transfer window, are we going to see a squad with a deeper depth and quality compared to this season? That'll be my main thing. Are we going to see a squad with a deeper depth and quality in this season? And maybe the follow-up to that is, are we planning to not only get into the Champions League, but also how to stay in the Champions League, which is what Aston Villa are about to do? I think that would be my questions. Exactly, Ches. How around the team based on English players, which is why a Brazilian is captain. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so that'd be my question, Ian. Let me know what would your question be, Ian, and what do you think of what I've said? All right, so we talked about the number 6. So let me get to my JLA. Newcastle are looking for a specialist number 6. Let me sign into my JLA. What does this mean? Before I look at the scouting profiles for the number 6s, I wanted to I need to pick up the channel to remind myself and to probably talk about with you guys what, I guess, some of the basics of what you want your number 6 to do for your team. So I'm not just talking about press, resistant, range of pass, and all of that is in it. But what it could tactically mean. I don't want Newcastle to be on this side. I want the other side. Let it be Fulham. I just choose a random team. They play 4-2-3-1, don't they? So I kind of wanted to talk about what do you want your number 6 to do? So take this off, put this on. What do you want your number 6 to do? And that would lead us on to the type of players we're looking for as well. So what do you want your number 6 to do? And yeah, folks, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Can you guys see that? Yeah, you can. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. What do you want your number 6 to do? And what would, especially in a specialist 6, right? Now, big up to, I forgot the name of the channel now. What is the name of the channel? Let me, before I get to there. Have I got them? Big up to Thinking About Football. In fact, I'm going to subscribe to it. Just did it just now. Big up to Thinking About Football. They gave a really good analysis in terms of number 6s. Right, so where are you guys? I lost my screen. Here we go. So I'm going to break it down a couple things in terms of the number 6 out of possession, but also in the press, and a little bit in terms of build-up. And we want to think about if we're talking about Newcastle looking for a specialist 6, what kind of profile? And I want to know from you guys, what kind of profile would you want Newcastle to be looking for, and what do you kind of expect? Right. So make sure you guys can see that. Yes, you can. I can see myself. That's good. Right. So couple things. Let me push these players up a little bit further. I'm going to use. I'm going to use Miley for this, and not Tonali. Who's going to be my right back? Doesn't really matter, but I'm being picky. Where's Miley? Not Miley. Who's our right back? Liramento. What do you guys? How do you think Newcastle? When it's my specialist 6, how would I want you guys to tell me this as well? Like, how do you expect a specialist 6 to function for at Newcastle? So there's a couple of things in terms of why they use a specialist 6, and we'll talk about the build up in a moment. So, and how it helps. So a couple of things really. Oh, Burn's going to put me off having him there as well. I'm being picky today. So Hall. So what part? There's a couple of things that you get some tactical flexibility in terms of how you get a number 6. Here you go. Yeah, you can see that. So say Miley being a number 6, I really should have just numbered them number 6. Would that work better? Let me just get on with it. So Miley's number 6 for me, right? Let me see if I can highlight him. So because he's going to be play highlight. Miley. So let's keep him there. Okay. So there's a couple of things that you get to do with a number 6, right? In terms of flexibility and playing out the back. And Wilbur would have seen this with Declan Rice. But Declan Rice was doing this part, right? But we'll talk about the passing in a moment. What it allows you to do is to drop in between the 2 centre-backs and have a back 3, whilst allowing your fullbacks, who kind of, like I said, someone said the fullbacks are like the modern 10s nowadays, right? And allows your fullbacks to push right up. Where's Osola? Not Osola. Where's Hall? Here we go. Here's Hall. Allows your fullbacks, like Liramento and Hall, to push or have flexibility in terms of either adding width, or in the case of Hall, who's very good at having these underlapping runs and having your 8s maybe go on the outside, but essentially connecting with the players up front. So what this turns into essentially is, as a lot of teams like to do, is have 5 in attack and 5 in defensive areas, right? But that's part of the issue. So that's part of the giving you that tactical flexibility. So even if you're, hitting transition, you've got 5 players in and around the area to help you to defend those transitions. The other areas that it also helps you, what they also help you do is, so it doesn't necessarily have to be like both fullbacks come up. You can have also with a fullback back. Say Hall stays back, Botman, Chow, Miley's here. In fact, I'll keep Miley. So you can have also a single, in terms of fullback, a single number 6, allowing your 2 8s to go into attack like that. So even if you're being pressed, you've got this number 6 in that position who would have to be essentially press resistant, who can turn and/or either drive with it, or obviously pass it off to the people around him, or if he's really good, create some line breaking passes as well. Part of the job of the 6 as well, being able to do that. So that's in terms of the build-up play in itself. So it gives you that tactical flexibility, either pushing up the But going in between the centre backs, allowing them to split, allowing the fullbacks to push up and join in the attacks, allowing for you to have at least 5 or 6 attackers at the beginning, 5 preferably, and still have 5 at the back as well. Without having to have too many players, if you don't have a really good specialist 6, without having too many players, as we had last season, having to fall back and try and pick the ball up themselves, which is troubling. The other area is when a team is pressing and I don't know if you guys got any more names. Who do you guys think I'm going to talk about today as well in terms of the 6? If you guys got any more ideas, do let me know. But also when a team is pressing. So again, Miley's the 6 in this particular instance, and you want a number of things here. So where's Usola? I should have had them in numbers. I think that's what's putting me off a little bit. So we've got Murphy on the inside, Willock in the 8s here, and you've got this type of situation going on in terms of we're pressing from the front. The other team is trying to defend and stay and essentially in the low block. What you want in these type of situations is to have a 6 who's also able to create either line breaking passes to your number 8s, or if he's really good, to your number 9s, and or if when the ball is being recycled, so it's the winger gets no joy, they put it back. You've got this number 6 who's able to keep the rhythm and the tempo going in terms of making sure the ball is recycled consistently as well. The other area as well is when your number 8s, for instance, say the ball drops, and we're talking about transitions here. When your number 8s or your midfield and your attack, for instance, are pressing, let's highlight the number 8s here as well. Highlight players: Bruno, Willock. When your number 8s are also pressing, they're like the first, or your midfield, your forward line, your forward line is also pressing. They are the first line of defense when the ball breaks and you're trying to defend transition. But what you want your number 6 to also be able to do is either also have the defensive nous to know when and where, and to sense when and where the danger could come from. So say if it comes on the left side and or on the right side, these are the type of areas you're going to be covering to ensure that the defensive line is also being protected. So have this ability to be able to cover the spaces, cover these passing lanes at the back to ensure it doesn't get to the player, or also having a tactical nous to either himself fall back in a defensive position in these areas here, and allow the centre backs at the back to engage with the forwards on the transition as well. So to be able to have the tactical intelligence to know what to do in these type of situations. Or if he's also very, very good, when the forwards are pressing, to also himself know when to press himself, to commit himself and support the forward press in these type of situations. That's why you got the likes of Rodri, elite of the elite, who are phenomenal at those type of things, to also press and support with the forward line press. So there's a lot of tactical intelligence work there. When to react in terms of blocking passing channels, when to fall back into position and allow others to deal with any particular forward line passes into attacking areas, and or either press himself and to help and support the forward line so that they're able to win the ball high up in those type of areas, right? So there's that ability that the number 6 has to have as well. We talked a little bit. I want to go back a little bit to the build up as well. And one of the other things, we're talking about tactical shifts, what also helps us to have a ball playing goalkeeper in these situations as well, when you're kind of breaking out the press as well. So if your fullback split and you've got I've got Pope is putting me off because I know that he's not a ball playing goalkeeper. Let me just keep Pope. Say he's a ball playing goalkeeper. When your fullback split and you've got your number 6 here, he also is able to support the goalkeeper back to goal and either break out the press himself, and because he's able to do that, and spray the passes going forward. And this is the part where the No Football Joke would agree with this. I'm going to read the comments in a moment. Where, for instance, the likes of Declan Rice are good at taking the ball out of defense, but what they end up doing, and you're going to see his passing stats really, really high, is not risking the ball enough going forward, especially for line breaking passes, and either doing sideways passes and or stopping and going back and controlling it. What you want your number 6 to at least be able to do is to take the risks with the ball. And we've seen some number 6 that we've talked about recently. If you guys remember Lamine Kamara being really, really good at that in terms of risking the ball going forward. So a couple of things we talked about. That number 6 has to be able to not only play in terms of build-up play, be press resistant, have a range of passing around them, either be in a single pivot and or a double pivot, playing out from the back, having in terms of the tactical evolution, having a ball playing goalkeeper really, really helps with that. The other areas also allows the team to play in a back 3 with the DM with the number 6 either going in between the fullbacks or either on the left or right hand side, or himself going in a single pivot with the fullback coming in to form the back 3. But with the idea of allowing the fullbacks or one fullback to either hit the wings, stretch the play, or do underlapping runs, join as a number 10s with the forward lines, give you the option of having 5 in attack, 5 in defense. And also when you're pressing, which is what which is what Newcastle are going to be doing a lot, to be able to either block or to block any transitions, either through blocking passing lanes, taking up defensive positions and allowing others to take passing lanes, knowing when to do that, or either himself joining in the press with the forward line to win the ball high up. So there's a lot of intelligence. There's a lot of things that you want your number 6 to be able to do. I think game intelligence is a big, big part of that. Athleticism, obviously, physicality is a big part of that. Ability, passing range is a big, big part of that. Ability to play with your ball, with your back to goal is a big part of that. Dictating the tempo of the game is a big part of that, and obviously that's what Newcastle have been really, really struggling to do with. Because if you're able to slow down the pace of the game, you also reduce the volume and the quality of the attacks against you, especially in transition. So I wanted to be able to note that before we got into the nooks and crannies of the number 6 that I'm going to be talking about today as well. So that's obviously that's the kind of number 6 that we're talking about. We've talked about midfielders so far in terms of scouting profiles previously, but I wanted to make sure if Newcastle are talking about a specialist 6, that those type of areas are being covered. Let me know what you guys are saying. I want to make sure I get it in the right. I think this is James says, I'm not caring about what happens in the season, and what's happening next season needs to be a clear value plan if Eddie Howe stays. Okay, cool. Sorry, I wanted to focus on the 6, but I get it. What am I missing here? Tony says, What question? What is with people overplaying the point? Pope has cost us. Say like 20 points is ridiculous. Saying he was disastrous. He's not good enough anymore. But it's just hating to scapegoat. People can do that. He's had very clear individual errors as well. Like even against Arsenal, guys, we were nearly down to 10 men after being quite decent. He's just getting old. He's got injuries as well. But you're right, Tony. We shouldn't skate. I don't think he's the main guy for why we had a bad season. I don't think that's the case as well. I hope I expressed that in terms of the content, the context that I've added to it. Ches says, that's a good question, Philip. If we can only do one in and one out, then depth will depend on if our outs, squad players, or improving on first 11. It's a difficult one. I don't think there's going to be a one in, one out necessarily. But you're right. The quality of players coming in essentially have to be, or with the emerging potential, be better than players that we've got at the moment. But I think we can improve on our goalkeeper. I think we can improve on our right back. I think we can improve on our left back because our left back has been absent, like in terms of rotational play. For instance, we've got Target who's playing in Middlesbrough at the moment. Burn, I think we can improve on that, like with a Hugo Bueno, right? So for me, I think there's some easy wins to improve upon from my point of view. James says yes, a low block breaker. He would technically need 2 if we're going to add a 10 as well. Yeah, depends what kind. Either with the ball or passing. I think we're going to get someone that's probably really good on the ball. What are you guys saying? Yeah, what would you? Oh, mine. Yeah, exactly. Incredible player. Just looking for any more anything else you guys say. Yeah. So Chelsea says, Philip, are you describing the type of 6 that plays the way that Bruno used to before Tonali came? It sounds like exactly the role he used to fulfill. He did. He was very, very good at it. But at the time, he used to have lots of people. Rumors were that he didn't always want to play in the 6. He wanted to be more advanced, hence why he's playing there. But yes, in essence, that's what you want from him. The only part where, and it's not his fault, when you say used to, exactly in his younger days, especially, right? Essentially, is a tracking back, and athletically, he just can't do it as well as he used to. But yes, in essence, though, I think there's a more defined 6. Like there's a difference between for instance, a Bruno and a Rodri. I don't mean this in quality. Like Rodri is more of a specialist. Bruno is more of an all-rounder. I'll show you what I mean in terms of the players we're looking at as well. But yeah, good point about Bruno. Exactly. All right, yeah. So that's what we're to lay kind of the foundations for what we're looking for in the 6. Let's look at, before I kind of talk about the 6 I always wanted to note the players, the midfielders that we have talked about already, who can also play that role, and who I think it's worth looking at them, and we're going to look at their stats as well compared to the player I'm going to talk about in a moment, because as you guys will see, they have eerily similar stats, and I didn't know this. In fact, the player, I'll keep it a surprise. Let's just say that there's a lot of similarities between some of the players that we already have. Right. So, folks, remember we talked about, where is it? These 2 midfielders, Chema Andreas and Lamine Kamara, both capable of playing that number 6 role. Chema does it. Chema is the real specialist, number 6. When we did a scatter profile on him, if you guys remember, that is what he does. He stays in that role. He don't ask him to the point where don't ask him to be, like I said, advanced midfielder, doing any of that stuff. He protects that back four, and he does it very, very, very well. He's got the same profile and height of a Rodri as well. He's on loan. Is he on loan to Stuttgart? I can't remember if he's on loan or he's got a buyback clause. I think he's got a buyback clause with Real Madrid. We know that they like to do that. So they're going to want a sell-on clause if we buy him, like they want with Garcia. But worth noting, Lamine Kamara, who's slightly shorter, a lot shorter than Chema, but a lot more adventurous. So yes, he can do the tracking back. We saw earlier off the ball stuff and blocking the lines and all those type of things. But he's also very good in terms of line breaking passing, forward passing, and being and taking risks in those type of areas, and ball carrying as well. If anything, he's probably is the more rounded midfielder out of everybody. So you can play in the 8 as well. But if we're focusing on the wording of the article, specialist 6, that's Chema. Chema is a specialist 6. So let's see. But those aren't the players we're going to talk about because we've already talked about them. The player we are going to talk about is this man, Nicolas Sienwald. Nicolas Sienwald, and I bet I'm mispronouncing it. Leipzig player, 24 years of age, playing in the Bundesliga. We're going to get in his data in a moment, but this was a recent information on him from Germany, directly from Germany, which was interesting as well. Magpie 247, God bless them, picked up on this, and what it says is Newcastle United are reportedly interested in signing Nicolas Sienwald from RB Leipzig at the end of the season, according to a report from Fußballdaten. Now, I tried to get to this report. I did get to the report, but it's in German. And I couldn't get it translated, which is weird, because typically that translate button comes up, but it didn't come up this time. Anyway, Newcastle have been keeping tabs on the 24-year-old Austrian talent, and our scouts have been watching the player regularly in the Bundesliga. And they've been, from what some of the German reports are saying, Newcastle scouts have been very, very impressed with him. So let's get into him a little bit more, see what he's about. Before we get into the scouting profile, just to note, his wages, he's on currently 81k euros all in. So bonuses included. He's got about 16 euro bonuses themselves. So he's not cheap. And at 24 years old, you kind of expect that type of wage. So he's probably on about what? 60 to 70k already, all in. I would imagine he might demand for something of 90 to 100k. So he'll be expensive-ish. He's not like he's not a Chema, breakout season essentially. He's been there, done that. His current contract runs out in 2028, and so you can imagine RB Leipzig are going to be asking for a fairly sizable transfer fee for him. So this is his heat map. You can see from going from left to right. Pretty much covers all areas essentially in the pitch, and what you have to remember, we're going to talk about this in terms of RB Leipzig. They are a very high pressing team, very vertical team. We talked about this from other players that we're looking at, I think Romelu. So a very high pressing team, vertical team. So a lot of similarities in Newcastle. So it's no surprise that the scouts are over there watching him and have an idea of how he plays. So primarily you can see him in his own half, protecting the back four, as you'd expect. But also, when they're pressing, you can see a lot of big heat maps in those central areas, in front of the forward line, where you can imagine he'll be involved in the press as well, covering either the forward line and or the defensive line as well. So let's get into him. I've got a number of I think I used 2 scouting reports on him, one from the Football Analysis guys and one from the Mastermind site. They're both, I think one of them is 25-26 season. But let's get into it now. They said his current market value from 20 million to 27 million. I don't think so. I think that's going to go up to that between 40 and 50. Anyway, core profile. Let me know if you guys have guessed them already. The energetic pivot. So Nicolas Sienwald is an energetic beast in the midfield, combining strong physical presence with intelligent progressive passing. We talked about that, what the six needs to have. Primarily operating as a central or defensive midfielder. So a DM or MC. He serves as a reliable structural anchor for RB Leipzig, which is what Newcastle want. Known for his astute awareness of his surroundings, so he's got intelligence, which we talked about. Sienwald excels under pressure. Good. Especially when he's going to be put under pressure in the Premier League, and perfectly positions himself to receive the ball or break up play. Exactly what you want the number 6 to do. Key scouting attributes: interceptions and positioning. He is constantly alert to his surroundings, using off-the-ball scanning to assess when to track his man or hold the line. Something that Tonali is still trying to master. He is a master of cutting lanes, good, and recording high ball regains, totaling 393 ball regains this season. That's pretty good. Defensive dueling. A tough tackler who masterfully times his challenges. Sienwald has recorded 154 tackles and wins nearly 75% of his defensive duels. That's very, very high. Technical security. He maintains high technical floor with a passing accuracy of 86.5%. Now, how much of that is sideways passing, I'm not sure. But still, during build-ups, he acts as a central pivot, distributing efficiently, short or long, to allow offensive teammates to thrive. That's good. That's what we was. So he does pass forward. Transition. The other key attribute is transition threat. Transition threat. Beyond defense, he provides an air of bravado in attack, contributing 1.8 key passes per game. That's good. Wow. And an 86% dribble success rate. That's like Lamine Yamal territory. Let's see. I'll have to double check on that one. But we'll look at data MB to look at it this season, how that's going. That's pretty high. Let's see. Anyway, pros and cons. So pros, obviously passing, strong, efficient, progressive passing, interceptions, elite positional awareness, exactly what we need to break up play, tackling, exceptional timing, high success rate, and stamina, high work rate, maintaining energy, 3,500 minutes played. Final third impact, primarily a facilitator, limited direct goal threat, which is okay. We're not necessarily looking for that. We're looking for a facilitator, really. Physical stature. Not the most intimidating physical presence despite his height. Chema, though, is. Discipline. Prone to tactical fouls, totaling 19 fouls recently. We need a player who doesn't mind doing the tactical fouls or getting a bit dirty. We've lost that. Consistent. They got it as a weakness. I think that'll be a strength for Newcastle at this stage. Consistency. Rating can fluctuate depending on tactical isolation. I would assume that happens when RB Leipzig are dominating games, right? So the need for him to be tracking back and getting regains is less if RB Leipzig, have got possession in the game, are recycling the ball. There's less for him to kind of do. So, verdict. The verdict is Nicolas Sienwald is one of the most under the radar yet sought after midfielders in the game, especially by Newcastle. His blend of defensive stability and energetic passing makes him an ideal candidate for top level teams like Tottenham. For Tottenham or something. I think that's when Tottenham were interested in him, or RB Leipzig to anchor in their midfield. While not a primary goal scorer, his efficiency in creating chances and nullifying transition makes him a vital tactical asset. So, even though he hasn't got direct goal threat, he still has an ability to create chances via his key passing. Now, before we go to his highlights, let me know what you guys think. I wanted to also look at his data and how on data MB, because there's some interesting stuff in it, and how he compares with, obviously, with some of our midfielders. Monaco player, I like him a lot. Kamara's very, very good. If we manage to get him, he solves a lot of problems for us. Ian McKenna's sidewalk. That's bad, Mike. Wobojok says, Phil, is there a reason why NEFC not looking at Stiller in Germany? I need to look at Stiller a little bit more. I haven't, rather than kind of looking at scout reports, I haven't read any scout reports yet. It's kind of word of mouth, but I get things where either he's overrated or he's just the best thing since sliced bread. So I'm not going to make any assumptions on him yet as to why or why not we're looking for him. Either he's the most sought after midfielder in Europe, or he's not. I don't know. There's also that. James says he's less interested in Sienwald. He's not a big fan of his style of play. Fair enough. He is, though. James says, I'm more interested in Stankovic or Kamara as a 6. Interesting. I have to look into Stankovic. Adrian says, get them both, Kamara and Stankovic. Yeah, why not? Now, I wanted to look at something first before we go into the players themselves, because we need to add context. It's never a good thing just to put radar metrics over radar metrics and say, wow, look at this player, he's better at this or that player is better at that. But there's also, it's important to add context for the team that they play for and the leagues that they're in. So it's never just a straight matchup, as we all know anyway. What I wanted to show is, it would have been better for me to, because you're not going to see this whole thing. Let me do it this way. That's better, but you can't, I don't think you guys can see this. You can't see the whole screen. So let me take this off. And where is this? Can I show it here? In fact, here we go. Can I show it here? Oh no, I can't. I'll just show how it is on the screen. I'll just bob it up and down. All right, so let me go back to it. So I wanted to first show the clubs, the players that Kamara, Chema, and Sienwald play for, to kind of give the context of where they're at, and compare them to Newcastle, and which ones are more familiar. But I need you guys, I don't know if you guys can see a bit of the screen. Right, so you'll see it in a moment. Right, where is it? Here we go. Right, so Newcastle, just to let you know, in fact, let me just do this first. Let me do it this way. Let me start off with Sienwald first and show you guys. So this is RB Leipzig, right? High metrics of attacking, possession, goals, Not so much in pressing, which is interesting because I thought it'd be a lot more higher than this. But that could be because they got a lot more possession. We'll see. Anyway, because Newcastle's pressing is a little bit higher. Physicality is very high, and defensive areas as well. So that's the kind of team he's in, where it's a high possession team essentially. But like I said, Leipzig are known to be a vertical team, a pressing team in Germany as well. I'm also going to show Monaco, obviously for Kamara. That's where the scouts are going. In fact, let me do this. Let me show Newcastle. Let me show Newcastle first, how Newcastle match up with Leipzig. So Newcastle are here in the orange. Here we go. So Newcastle are here in the orange, just making sure you guys can see this. By the way, these stats for Newcastle are receding every time I look at them. But this is Newcastle in the orange, and you can see obviously the main matchups we have, or close to matchups we have with them, is around the counter attacking. Physicality, we're almost the same. We would be a lot more higher in attacking and in goals if we had a good striker, but nonetheless, the pressing part is where we're a lot more higher. We're going forward. So I don't know why this is a bit low for Leipzig. In fact, let me just see where they were at last season. Because 24, 25. So this is them in the blue. So their pressing is a lot higher. And he's played with them for about 5-6 seasons. So 23, 24. Yeah, again, higher and a lot closer to Newcastle's. So I think this season they had a style of change, but typically, like Leipzig's pressing is a lot more higher in comparison to others. Let's look at Monaco compared to Newcastle and to Leipzig, where obviously Mr. Kamara plays. Now, Monaco are here in the light blue. Their pressing is very, very high, a lot more closer to Newcastle. That's where their matchup is as well. Physicality, same issue, in the same ballpark as Newcastle and Leipzig as well, though they are a lot more higher in terms of their counter-attacking football, a little bit less in their possession, a lot closer to Newcastle in their possession, and in attacking and goals, although a bit obviously higher than Newcastle. So again, you can see that the scouts are looking at teams that have very similar attributes to Newcastle in pressing, physicality, in particular, kind of going forward. And the final team is Stuttgart, who are a little bit different to these teams, but that's where obviously Mr. Chema plays for. Now, let me take off Stuttgart, got the same, annoyingly, have the same color as everybody else. Give us a different color. Stuttgart are in the orange here, but they have very similar, again, very, very similar metrics to literally to Monaco, Leipzig as well in terms of possession, attacking, and goals. They had a very good season, and their pressing is more closer to Newcastle this season as well. So we know that Chema can play in Newcastle's, in terms of their pressing style, he wouldn't be too out of place. Physicality, again, they're up there with all of us. So Newcastle are looking at teams, like I said, have very, very similar metrics to themselves. Because why look at teams who don't have those similar metrics? And because it gives you an idea, it gives them a better idea of having of the kind of context of players that the kind of context those players are playing in, and the environments are. Obviously, Germany and France. France obviously being a little bit more of a physical team. So they can, when they're thinking about how this player is likely to play in the Premier League, they're already playing for high pressing, physical sides who also have ability in possession, are going for goal, are going for attack as well. Which is, again, when Newcastle are playing well, are the type of team that Newcastle are as well. So we're in the right area. So this is Sienwald's metrics, right? This is Sienwald's metric, and at some point we'll do the match preview for Brighton, though we don't have as much time, unfortunately. Actually, yeah. So, apologies, my sinuses are kicking in. But Sienwald's metrics, I want you guys to look at this. It's very, very interesting. Sienwald, this is incredible. This is this season. I want it to be noted that Sienwald has played. Let me see his career. He has played four and a half seasons for RB Leipzig. Okay. He excels in duels, successful duels. Successful duels, Sienwald's at 98.3%. 98.3% in terms of successful duels. I don't know how he's doing it. I'll look at his highlights, but that is phenomenal. It's either Sienwald's the strongest man in the world or Bundesliga attack, essentially. He's in the 80th percentile for possession one. So obviously that's picking up interceptions, loose balls, which you expect number 6 to do. So very good in those areas. 76% in percentile for forward passes, which is good. And forward pass success, 82 percentile, very, very good. Key passes, so passes that lead to shots on goal or goals, is 28 percentile, which is fine. It's, you're not expecting it to be high. Progressive passes, 65 percentile. So there's passes that lead the pitch, that lead his team from one area of the pitch to an advanced area of the pitch. 65 percentile, which is fairly good. And this is in the Bundesliga. This is in the Bundesliga alone. So some very, very, very good metrics. Now, keep it in mind, as we match him to the other players, I'm going to leave one Newcastle player in reserve because it's very, very interesting something about him. Matching him to Kamara and keeping in mind what we just saw earlier in terms of making sure we keep in context. Obviously, Kamara plays for Monaco in France, so it's going to be a little bit different, slightly different style of team, but there are similarities as well. I don't like this color they gave him. Kamara. Here we go. Blue. So Kamara's in the blue, Sienwald's in the yellow. So you can see that Kamara's a bit more of a rounded player in terms of what he does. His key passes are higher compared to Sienwald. His scouting profile shows that in terms of what he does for the team. He is a little bit more risky. But, and this is why he is still useful as a 6. Very good 6, actually, useful. Possession 1, very, very similar stats to Sienwald. Ball carrying, again, very similar to very much in the same metrics as Sienwald. Forward passes, again, he's on 75 percentile. Sienwald's on 76. Success rate, though, for forward passes for Kamara is 60 percentile, whereas it's 82 percentile for Sienwald. That could mean different things in terms of the teams that they play for. Progressive passes, again, very, very similar. Defensive duels, a little bit less. His defensive duel success rate is 73 percentile. Sienwald's is 98 percentile. I don't know how Sienwald's are that high. That's incredible. But you can see that where Sienwald excels, which is defensive duels, Kamara excels in key passes. Otherwise, they have very, very similar metrics in other areas. Now, if you add Mr. Chema, I'm going to take off Kamara for a minute. Chema from Stuttgart, who actually plays in the same league as Sienwald. So you got a little bit more familiarity there. Let me take off Kamara. So Chema is in the pinkish orange, right? Very, very. You can see here on the radar points, they hit very, very, very similar metrics in terms of style of play as number 6s. And remember, Chema is seen as a registered number 6, a very specialist number 6. And you can see here forward pass percentages, key passes, even in the low ends, progressive passes, dual percentage wins, possession won, a carry. These two are eerily the same. A lot more familiar. And in my view, a lot more in the specialist 6 area as well. The last player I want to match these two, I'm going to leave Kamara out for a minute, which is very, when I saw this, I thought was very, very interesting. This is what I saw before I came onto the show. Lewis Miley. Lewis Miley. This is this season, 25-26. He's 19 now. Lewis Miley is here in the green, folks. Now, his metrics aren't as high in possession won and progressive passes. I think this is more down to how Newcastle have been playing, but a lot of similarities to the other two. In dual percentages, when Miley, by the way, guys, he's in the same bracket as Sienwald in dual win percentages. Miley's in the 95%, 94.8 percentile. And these dual winning includes aerial and ground duel. So they're both in the 98 percentile. Chema's in the 83 percentile. Possession won, so picking up loose passes. This is where it's a little bit different. And for Miley, it's going to be different because we know that Miley's played right back. Miley has a different role where we have a floating midfield, but he's lower than the other two in the 55 percentile. Progressive carries, Miley is 30 percentile. The other two are in the 4s and 17. So he's a lot more progressive, but he has a different role for Newcastle. So that's where we kind of keep it in mind. Very similar forward passes, 78 percentile. The other two in 80, 76 percentile. Miley's forward passing is in the 95 percentile percentage success. Again, I think that's to do with his role in the team. But again, very eerily, in my opinion, very similar stats. So both Chema and Sienwald, I'm not saying that not the exact same player, but what's interesting, in my opinion, is that the metrics for these guys, I think, and in the team that they play for, it isn't surprising that Newcastle are looking for, are rumored to be looking for these two players. There's a lot of signs to show that, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense, in my opinion. So let me know what you guys think about that. I'm going to show some highlights of Mr. Sienwald in action and get you guys' take before we do the match preview for Brighton. This is going to be a match preview show for the Brighton game, which is crazy. And I'm going to have about less time than anything else to be able to do it, but it's cool. We love what we do. I was going to put Brighton rather than Sienwald. But let me know what you guys are saying. I'm going to look at you guys at the comments in a moment. Let me just find Sienwald highlights. Here we go. Oh, he's on Brazil. Oh, that's 4 years ago. He was on Brazil Scout. Is there anything more recent? Hopefully there is. 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Nothing recent. That's annoying. What's going on here? That's annoying. I wanted to see something more recent. Let's look at it. Whoa, jeez. Let's look at 3 year ones. Let me see what you guys are saying in the comment. I think we might be on the right track here. Where are you guys? Thanks, Ches. Very exciting links, Philip. Appreciate the analysis. Thank you for that, sir. God bless you. Yeah, brilliant. You guys are in depth conversation. I'm following you guys' conversation. I'm like, wow, this is interesting. But yeah, I think we're somewhere along the right tracks here. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear a lot more news about these guys. But in terms of transfers, but let's have a look at Mr. Sienwald. We've talked a lot about him. See what you guys make of him, and please do, folks, remember to like, share, subscribe. As always, let's try and break 20 likes in this show if we can. Have I got this on slow? I might just have this on slow. No, normal speed. Good. Just slowing the pace. So that's him. They've got him highlights in a lot more advanced areas there, scoring some decent goals. So you know that he can get into those areas. But you see him, so he does have some dribbling skill. I didn't believe that he did. Again, picking up the loose balls, passing forward when he can, good under pressure. So he does have dribbling. I kind of underestimated that. Showing some, improvisation there, getting past players, holding to the ball. He's not going to let go of the ball unless he has to let go of the ball. Doing really, really well. Again, under pressure. I always think, how would this look like in the league? But a nice little dub. Oh, lovely there. Step. This is him breaking up the play, which you expect him to do. Holding up the ball, not panicking. Good to see. Acting. He's typically plays in a double pivot for Leipzig, and some of the scouting reports were saying that if you are going to play him in a double pivot, which is likely to happen in a 6, it's better to play him alongside a ball playing midfielder, of which Bruno, Miley, Tonali, if he stays, all are able to do. So that makes a lot of sense. But he's a lot more better on his metrics to show that. So he's got a bit of a rate. He's got a bit of range as well. But you can see that he keeps it simple. Good turn on the 360. Uses it really well. Not the strongest player. I'm just wondering, how is this guy? I want to see. I don't know if they showed his tackles. I'm just thinking, how does this guy get? How's his his duels? To be honest, Miley's got the same dual winning ability. So he's clearly doing really, really well in his duels. A lot of that's really good. Breaking the lines there. Really, really good. And this is the stuff that you want, that I think they want to be able to see, that I think the scouts will be looking at. I wish we could see a lot more like Leipzig, how they are in terms of trying to, when they're kind of under pressure, or trying to break when they're getting caught in transition, what his position is like. And that's where I think we just have to watch the games, essentially. But here's him getting his assist with his left foot there. Unlucky, creating. Again, supporting with the attack. Decent. Oh, sheesh, that player missed it there. But yeah, interested. I think he really got the flashy points in terms of what he does on the ball. But I was really, really keen to see something, his tackling. But you can see on the ball, he's good. His metrics bear that out as well. Eerily similar stats to Miley and to Chema. I know they're playing different leagues for different teams, but those teams also have not too dissimilar stats to Newcastle as well. So nothing to be afraid of. James says he reminds me a lot of Rory Fitzgerald. Plays this modern 6. Interesting. I hear a lot about Rory Fitzgerald as well. We'll have to have a look at him. But yeah, good player. Let me know what you guys think. We're going to jump onto the game against Brighton real quick as well. In fact, yeah, Brighton. So send in your score prediction, but let me know also who would you guys want, Sienwald or Chema or Lamine Kamara? If Newcastle had the opportunity to get one of those players, who would you guys go for? Sienwald, Kamara, or Chema? Let me know. For me personally, I'm stuck between Chema and Kamara. I really like Kamara. Not Kamara, Chema. I like the idea of Chema. And his physicality and his kind of he's a similar profile to Miley, really. I think we could do a lot with him. But Kamara has an edge in terms of what he's able to do on the ball going forwards. His key passing, his ball carrying, his willingness to take risks. Can you get Chema to be a little bit more risky, carry the ball a little bit further, take risks with this passing? I think that'll be the big question, really. Let me know what you guys think. Adrian is better than our wingers. He's only 19. Okay. Ches says, really like the look of Sienwald, very comfortable on the ball for a 6, but also there's a lot more than a traditional 6 by what the highlights show. Yeah, I think they're like Hollywood highlights. His stats don't bear it out too much in terms of creativity in front of the goal, which is fine. I really want to see how he defends transitions. James says Kamara, his optics are generally better, hopefully with Stankovic as well, because of the replacement for Willock. You guys really like Stankovic. I have a theory that I think the Stankovic stuff is because Inter Milan are considering buying him back, but I think they're considering buying him back because they want to make a flipping for a profit. I think they can buy him back for 10 million and possibly sell him for 30, 35 million. And I think they've put it out there that Newcastle could potentially be interested to get bidding going. But I think everybody's doing that. I suppose. So I don't know. Right, Brighton. Thanks for sending me in, letting me know, guys. Brighton, by the way, let me just say this, I'm in red hot form. Let me show that quickly before we get into the tactics of it. How are you guys feeling about the game? What is your expectation? Brighton are currently 6th. With 50 points. Just the last 5 games, they won 4, drawn 1. That one was against Tottenham. So that's crazy. They battered Chelsea 3-0. They beat Burnley. They beat Liverpool 2-1. They beat Sunderland 1-0. Hey, they got 9+ goal difference, 13 wins. They got 10 losses, which is interesting, and 11 draws. We are currently with 12 wins. We've got 1 less win than Brighton, which is crazy. 6 draws to us and 16 losses to us. I have a feeling this game is going to be a lot more tighter than what people anticipate it will be. Let's look at Brighton quickly. Let's see if we get a little bit more of their kind of run of form. Where is it? So this is the last 10 games. If you guys can see that, you can. Where is it? Where am I? Here we go. 10 games, of which it looks like they lost 3, drawn 1, and won 6. Chelsea, who gave up essentially. Burnley, Liverpool, Sunderland. They lost to Arsenal, which is no mean feat. 1-0 to Arsenal, same scoreline as us, actually. They beat Forest and they beat Brentford. So some really, really good results. They were super impressive against Chelsea. Chelsea were lucky not to lose 8-0. They're on top of their game. Where's the bit that shows their goal scorers? Where is it? They're not showing that anymore. Okay, players, top players. So Danny Welbeck, who is the bane of our lives, is on 13 goals this season. Then it's Gomez, and then it's Paul Van Heck. So their front line isn't exactly booming with goals. And Danny Welbeck's on the bench more often. And then he starts against us probably. But Van Heck, always impressive to watch him. And Bart Verbruggen as well in goal. He's very, very good. Jan Kuba Minte is another guy who terrorizes us on the wings. Van Heck's got 3 assists, which is interesting. So we have to look out for those line-breaking passes, of which have been a curse to us. But their form is very, very interesting. Let me know what you guys think of about that. I'm going to get into the comments in a moment. Let me just put the old JLA tactics board. Guys, let me know who you'd play, because I've been mulling over this. I'm trying to look at it from Eddie Howe's point of view, who'd play. Let me know who you'd play. James got there early, so Pope, Hall. So you got Hall, excellent. Miley, Botman, Chow, Sandro, Bruno, Ramsey. In a 10, Gordon, Votamada, and the Solar on the right. Is that Elanga? It's a 4-2-3-1. I like it. Wobojog says, Phil, can you look at Ayub Wadidi in your next 6 analysis video? I hear he's amazing, but I will take that request. I swear everybody like PSG are after him. If Newcastle, okay, I'll do it for you, Wobojog. I'll do it for you. I was going to say, if Newcastle looking at it, I'm looking at it, but I'll do it for you. Adrian says, having watched Brighton against Chelsea, I'm not particularly confident. Yes, I hear where you're coming from. I would also say that Chelsea did try to do something different in that game, and it didn't pay off. And they just ran out of heart. I do not expect that from Newcastle at St. James's Park. And I thought that we showed our mettle, to be honest. Is Verbruggen? Against Arsenal, especially when 1-0 down, we didn't give up. Why is there a red mark on Bart Verbruggen's name? Seamas injured, March injured, Milner's injured, Gomez is injured. I don't know why there's a red mark on Verbruggen's name. Okay, so starting lineup for Newcastle. Brighton do play in a 4-2-3-1, but we know that can go into a 4-3-3. We know that they love the old. I don't know why I'm going into their way of playing, but it might probably. I think it's because I'm thinking about how we might play. But what they love to do is you will have Van Heck here, go into the 2, sometimes in the 2 or the 3. They're kind of quite flexible. You have to look out for Kadigulu, who goes up and down these wings as well. Allows the likes of and they form this lovely box shape that they love to do, so they can outnumber. In fact, let me take this one off. Let me put the vector on. Is to do this. This becomes their zone of dominance. I'm getting straight into the tactics rather than lineups, but I think there's a reason for that. I know there's a reason for that because I'm thinking about the team that we're going to play. Now, I've kept the team so far that started against Arsenal for a reason. Maybe to figure out who the better starting lineup will be. I think that's why I'm doing it. So Brighton love to do this, to create this 4. So typically, obviously, teams have a 4-3-3 type of structure, and obviously they get out kind of either outnumbered in the midfield area or different phases, and that's what allows Brighton to progress the ball through the middle, of which they're very, 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 very good at. And it can go either ways, actually. So Hinshelwood is quite important to that. Mitoma on the wings as well. So you've got this 4 here. You can have this box shape in the middle here, and or progresses to here. And that's where it becomes very dangerous for Newcastle, right? In terms of if we've got a midfield 3, say for instance it is Bruno, Tonali, and or Willock. In this case, we are already outnumbered. Where's the ball? And they're just playing around us and getting through the center areas, which we definitely want. And who's in the center depends, can vary. You can still have Hinshelwood, maybe even closer up here with Minte. If Weaver pushes up, adds a lot more kind of dominance, numerical advantage. 4 on 5, 6 on 5 in different areas and passing it around us. So that's the part that we have to really, really, really not allow ourselves to get into. I already don't like this matchup, Minte and Burn. That's got historical problems. So you would consider Hall, but are we going to get the Hall that defended against Ryan, against Bournemouth? Or are we going to get the Hall that defended against Lamine Yamal in the first game? If we get Lamine Yamal, first game Hall, then yes, please. I'll change Burn. But if we get Ryan Hall, I'll be very, very scared. Because it won't look good. So I'm gonna say that Hall got his break. Him and Howe allegedly people said that they had a tiff. Have made up. I'll put Hall here out of interest, to say okay, though that might not be the case. I do suspect that might not be the case, but we'll see. That would make sense in that type of matchup. To stop this box midfield, I didn't mention this, should have said it at the beginning, and this might lead me to who might play in the midfield and or centre backs. The most simplest way to not get outnumbered in this midfield is centre backs pushing up. So Botman pushing up against Hinshelwood, for instance, in this situation, which allows Bruno to push up against Gross, whichever it doesn't have to be Bruno, it could be Tonali. But with Bruno pushing up against Gross, Willock against Baliba, and or Tonali, for instance, in this case against Ruta. So that all happens from the centre back pushing forward. And this is where, for instance, the likes of where Brighton will either take the case of having your weavers pushing up further to try and add a little bit more numerical advantage, of where Ramsey would have to add to kind of be ready to track back if it is Ramsey that plays. Which then makes me think, would Joe Linton be better? Let's consider Joe Linton for a minute. Even though I really, really like Ramsey. It says Joe Linton yellow card. He must be. Let me know, guys. I swear Joe Linton must be back. Excuse me. Joe Linton must be back. Right? So that would be good. And what I've noticed with Botman and Chow forming a better defensive partnership every time, it's typically Chow that kind of steps back and cleans up any kind of, especially when they're pressing up, and it's Botman who pushes up, even though both they can do it. But you'll have Botman and or Chow pushing up, and that's how you break that stronghold, that's numerical advantage in the middle. So the centre backs have to be active and they have to be ready. But we also have to attack. And how we do that is going to be interesting. Now, a lot of folks, I'm sure, will be talking about Wissa and Voltemada. And I wish I had time to look at the Wissa interview. If I get 5 people saying they want to look at a Wissa interview, I'll do it at the end of the show. If I get 5 people saying it. All right. Okay, so let's think about the attack. And this is how I'm selecting my team today. Voltemada, Wissa. So part of I can see the temptation in playing Voltemada because he did have a good 15 to 20 minute cameo. Let's put it the other way. 15 to 20 minute cameo where, I went too high up now. Sorry, folks. Let me just deal with this quickly. Okay, brilliant. Where, so Van Heck, Bazagli, let me delete this for a minute. He did really, really, really well. Willock came off, played in between the lines, and he was aggressive, which is what we need him to be. Tonali forward, Chow, Botman, Hall, Weaver has to come back, Joe Linton, Hall, I like that better, Botman, where he was really, really good in between these lines. And being aggressive, being available, body language kind of going into the forward direction, I thought was really, really good. He was even better, though, because Vissa's movements were really good. And Vissa was connecting with him better. And Vissa was talking about it in an interview where he's had more time playing with these players. Would Howe risk it? What does he have to risk, really? The season's nearly over. And play them right at the start? It's a possibility. What you can't discount, and maybe people won't be fans of this, is that Joe Willock had a very, very good game. The key difference for Willock and Voltemada, and it all depends on the midfield that you want, is Willock's transition play. So even if Newcastle are obviously maybe on the back foot and are trying to break out, Willock's ball playing ability, his ability to drag up, and actually Voltemada showed that as well. But Willock is just a little bit more athletic, can get up the field a little bit more and drag the team forward. And it allows the likes of Wissa to pick and choose what side of kind of what angles he wants to create for them. And that's what Vissa's really, really good at. And I think that's why I think for me, Vissa's more likely to play than Voltemada. I think Osolo will go on the bench. It's his ability to create these angles. And I think that's what brings in other players into play, in the game a lot more, especially from an attacking point of view. I think Miley will remain at right back. It makes sense. But I can see the temptation in playing Voltemada. Willock is the midfielder out of the two. It's interesting because you do have Joe Linton, Tonali. How many players do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I want 4, 6. Yeah, I got 10. For some reason, I thought I had more than. There's options here, is what I'm trying to say. I do hope. Let me know what you. I'm stuck, guys. I am thinking about Voltemada. Because Wissa changes things. When Wissa's playing like how he did against Arsenal, creating angles, all of a sudden Bruno, his ability to get ball, Bruno has options. Other players are able to get into play. Murphy comes into play. Maybe even the Langer, actually. Maybe even the Langer rather than Murphy when Worcester plays like this. Because now Langer has a bit more options on the ball as well. I made a lot of changes here. I don't know if Eddie Howe does this. I don't know. I'll play Langer over Miley. Not Miley, over what's his name? Murphy. Joe Linton Tonali. Who's on the left? Is Gordon fit, guys? Is Gordon fit? Let me know, guys, in the chat. Is Gordon fit? Because if Gordon is fit, if Gordon is fit, they're saying hip injury on here. If Gordon is fit, this changes a lot. Because I remember, if you guys remember when we played against Crystal Palace at home, Gordon and Wissa joined up a lot. I've really changed this team. If Gordon is fit, Voltamada's on the bench for me. If Gordon's not fit, I think Willock starts for the same reason that Gordon would, because of his ability to go on the left as well and his athleticism. And maybe Voltamada joins in a little bit later. Tonali and Joe Linton a little bit more central, but also coming out, save out wide. Maybe Bruno has obviously the opportunity to advance in those areas. Miley's ability to invert helps a lot. And players number 6, as we talked about, allows the others to advance in these type of areas. Ooh, this could be a good game, guys. This could be a good game. I can see it. This is my starting lineup. I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go Willock, Wissa. If Gordon's not playing, I'm going for Willock, Wissa, and Ilanga up front. Bruno, Tonali, and Joe Linton in midfield. This whole at left back is the only other difference. But I made about 4 changes there. And I'm going to give my score prediction at the end. I want to hear what you guys are saying. Send in your score predictions, send in your lineups. But I'm liking what I'm seeing. And I think Wissa being in form, or in better form, changes the outlook for a lot of this, in my opinion. No, Ches, I don't think Trippier is injured, but I think Miley's preferred on the right back area because of that, his ability. He's a better athlete, good at passing, good tackler, good defensive, good right back actually, and better in inverting as well. Adrian also will play same as somebody else in 4-2-3-1. I think James did. I'll play 4-2-3-1. Adrian says backline of Pope, Chow, Botman, Miley, and Hall. Bruno, Sandro, pivot. Yeah, and J7 left. Ramsey on the right. Nick behind Wissa. Okay, get it. Thanks for sending that in, Adrian. Send in your score predictions, guys. I'm going to give my score predictions in a moment. Wilbur Jog says PSG, Arsenal, I think United and Bayern as well as we're after as well. PSG. After Wadidi. PSG and Arsenal are considered the closest to signing him next summer. Okay. So I'll look at him though. Let me see what you guys are saying. I'll go with Hall, says Ches. Yeah, he might have just needed a rest. I just don't, he might have just needed a rest. I was going to say, I don't want to see Burn against Minte. James says, Botman and Chow both do it, but we need these two to get experience together. Why was kept the names? I'm not putting Burn for the rest of the season now. Joe Linton is back, but I prefer Ramsey. That is a good call. I've got Joe Linton there because I think Howe's going to look at Minte, and if whether it's Hall or Burn at left back, he's going to need support. So I think Joe Linton and Tonali will be protecting the back four, and it allows Bruno to be in advanced areas. And I think that's why he might sacrifice Ramsey for that. Yeah, I think that's what I think. Let me know what you think, Ches. Adrian says, isn't Gordon supposed to be back fit? If he is back fit, and he's ready to go, Willock's on the bench. Let me know, folks. Have we broken the 20 likes barrier? Have we got 20 likes? Have we got 20 likes? Let me know. Miss two. I think we was only supposed to miss 2 games. Gordon. Okay. I see Eddie playing Gordon. If Gordon is fit and he's ready to go, Willock's on the bench. And I think we look even more spicy up front. I think it could be a very, very, very interesting game up front. Even though send in your score predictions, guys. I see if you guys done that, please send in your score predictions. It says Chess says, even though Wissa fluffed his shot, that was a good centre forwards run. It was very, very good. And that's on talking about movement. And we need to do more of those. I'd give him another run with Voltemada. Okay. Interesting. Ches gone 2-1 to the 2. Adrian, is that 3-2 to Newcastle? Let me know. Well, score predictions. I think Ches has taken the thought right out of my head. And I'm gonna go for a 2-1 Newcastle victory. Score predictions are so bad. But it depends on Gordon. It depends on Gordon being fit. And I think a better Wissa really, 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 really changes the outlook of this team. Joe Linton's also back. I think that helps. Yeah. He might play Ramsey over Joe Linton, but yeah, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go for this lineup. In fact, let me print screen it. so I remember it for next time. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. I'm going to go for Wissa. Goal scorers, Wissa and Bruno Gomes as our goal scorers. Bruno Gomes. Wissa and Bruno Gomes. Big up, Adrian. Of course. Guys, you've been absolutely phenomenal. What did Ches say here? I hear you, Philip, on J7 Ramsey. I agree with you defensively, but if Voltemada is playing, Ramsey would link up well with him. I agree. So hard to say 50-50. It's good to have options, isn't it? It's good to have options. Thanks, Ches. Fantastic show as always, Philip. Always enjoy the effort you put into your research for us. Take care, James, Adrian. God bless you. Guys, you've been absolutely phenomenal. Today we did a match preview for the Brighton game, obviously just now. We've given our score predictions and lineups, but we started off the show talking about the articles that were released from, respectively, Mark Douglas and from Chris War, talking about different things. Newcastle looking for number 6. What, kind of also from the Athletic, what kind of data Eddie Howe could use to defend his position. Excuse me. To defend his position to PIF. I think if you add more context, you can add more than the data, and I think there's a lot more in favor of Eddie Howe. But we've also talked about that number 6 role, what you want your number 6 to do, and the number 6 that Newcastle have been looking at, reminding ourselves about Chema Anders and Lamine Kamara, and the new one on the block, Nicolas Sienwald, all have eerily similar stats to each other, especially Chema, Miley, and Sienwald. And fantastic, fantastic players. Hopefully, we'll get at least one of them over the line. But you guys have been phenomenal, sticking with me to the end as always. Make sure you look after each other. And as always, folks, God bless you all.